Evening, everybody. Tonight is Wednesday, May 14th, 2025, and this is the regular meeting for the School District of Waukesha Board of Education. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and please let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Mrs. Ettinger, would you take the roll call, please?
Eric Brooks.
Here.
Natalie Gren.
Here.
Thomas Harlan.
Here.
Betty Koenig.
Here.
Carrie Kozlowski.
Here.
Diane Voigt.
Here.
David Wad.
Here.
Anthony Zenobia.
Here.
Kelly Piasek.
Here. And Mrs. Ettinger, can you verify that the meeting has been properly posted?
Yes, it has.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we have a lot to cover, a lot of exciting things tonight, so I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Siebert, and we'll start with our recognitions for tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Piasek. We do have a lot to celebrate tonight, and we're going to start by recognizing Mr. Mark Blackman. Mark is here tonight with his wife Jane and some other members of the technology department. Mark, you'd be welcome to come to the podium if you'd like. I'm going to say some nice things about you. Mark's original hire date with the district was November of 1987 when he joined the audiovisual department. He transitioned to that department into the media services department and led that department as a manager for over 25 years. He navigated that department through countless technology changes, and when we look back at his original 1987 job description, some of the things in it were possess good management skills and be technically competent in the area of computers and audiovisual equipment, which obviously over this time span has changed significantly. Mark officially retired in 2012, but for the past 12 years, he's been the force maintaining our board meeting production. Mark took our Channel 13 TV broadcasts, I should say, from videotape and manually operated cameras to full HD streaming via YouTube. We want to thank Mark for his years of service to the School District of Waukesha, and we also want to wish him all the best as he now moves on to the next chapter of his life with Jane and everything else that he wants to do. But Mark, you've been around since '87 through 2025, and we just want to say thank you, and we really appreciate your ongoing effort to support us.
Thank you. Can I say something for a second?
You certainly could.
You know, I started way back in 1965. I was a freshman in a high school, a large suburban high school in Chicago, and a dean decided this guy is kind of getting lost. He should go into something, and I ended up into the AV. So since then, I've been involved in education and audiovisual, or in some format of that over all those years. And I think it goes to the importance of how a teacher, how anybody in a school district can work with students, influence them, and be aware and train them. And that's all I've seen within the Waukesha School District with the people I've worked with over all these years and stuff and the like. So,
Well, we really appreciate it. And Mark, I'd like to come out and present you with a mug that you can use. And show what it says.
oh, okay. So,
I can read it.
retired.
It says officially retired 2025 School District of Waukesha in our SDW colors. So
Okay.
congratulations.
Thank you very well. Yeah. And I just want to thank all the people I've worked with, the various bosses that I had, 3 of them, and the library media staff for developing, and they've really made my job easier and dedicated to what they do the best, and that's helping students and guiding students. So I appreciate that. So thank you very much. So.
Thank you, Mark. All right. We have another recognition this evening, and that is going to be Mr. Bobby Franklin. So If you'd like to come to the podium, Mr. Franklin, we'd welcome that while I say some nice things about you. Or you can stay in your seat, and I can say them there too. Completely up to you. So, last Thursday evening, the School District of Waukesha held its recognition and retirement event. And that evening, we honored 34 retirees, 14 individuals who have accrued 30 years of service, 3 employees who accrued 35. But there was one award we'd be remiss if we did not share it here at the board level. And that was Mr. Bobby Franklin being recognized for 50 years of service in the School District of Waukesha. Bobby began his career in 1975, and for a half century, he has been a constant and steady presence in our schools. A quiet hero whose hard work, commitment, and care have left a lasting impact on generations of students, staff, and families. Your role as a custodian has been so much more than a job. It's been a mission of service and pride. You've helped create safe, clean, and welcoming learning environments, often working behind the scenes, but never unnoticed by those who truly understand the heart of a North Star. For the majority of these 50 years, your hands have carried the weight of daily tasks with humility, your eyes have noticed the smallest details that needed fixing or attention, and your heart has poured genuine care into every hallway, classroom, and corner of every building you've touched. Beyond your professional dedication, those with the honor and privilege to call you their friend have witnessed your kindness, humor, work ethic, and the quiet strength you bring to every challenge. You've shown that what it means to serve with dignity and what it looks to take pride in every task, no matter how big or small. Bobby, your legacy is not only in clean floors or the shiny windows, it's in the relationships you've built, the lives you've influenced, and the example you've set for all of us. So we want to say thank you for 50 remarkable years. We are very Waukesha proud because of you. Congratulations.
I'm going to try and put in another 2 years.
We know that. We know that.
I want to go out with the 27 class. I love working with the kids. The kids love me. The teachers, I care about the teachers a lot. Some of the teachers, we talk about fashion. I tell them when the sales are on, see, like when Christopher and Banks was on, and all that stuff. I was on, would you believe it? I was on the first student council. I helped name our school. And I remember when our basketball team had to play down at Carroll. And I can remember how we beat South 58 to 54 first year. And our principal was Charles Splitgerber, Joe Fielding, and Ed Fink. And I enjoyed, and me and the principal, we sat down one day. I took her away from her work. And one thing I can say, you folks really have good subs. The substitute teacher came up to me one day in the science area, and she says, "Why are you cleaning this up?" And I said, "That's part of my job." She says, "I'm going to have a long talk with the kids the next day, and you would never believe it, that room was spotless." We tried to keep our school clean. And we now work as a team. I mean, I was there from day one. I mean, we came, there's so many changes. I was there when we had no walls. We had no gym. The pool leaked. Let's see, what else? There was no gym floor.
Okay.
But I don't know. We made it.
Of course you did.
And another thing, the first year or two, we had no heat, no windows. But, yeah, that's all I have to say, folks. Call me back in 2 years.
Don't walk away, Bobby. And I appreciate all that Christopher Banks. I always appreciate it. Yeah, congratulations to you.
Thank you.
You bet. Dr. Piasek has a.
Oh,
Thank you very much.
thank you. What did I get? Oh. Oh, thank you so much, because I asked our supervisors to get me one.
This one's even a little more special. This one recognizes your 50 years of service.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah, you'll wear that proudly.
sure.
You bet, I know you will.
But not when it's 80 degrees out.
Not today. Not today.
Congratulations.
Call me in.
Yeah, you bet. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You bet, don't forget your card.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate you.
yeah, thank you.
I would say, as a North parent in the room, and there's some others too, we can attest to our kids know and love Bobby, and he's the one that's there after the event when we're all, wrangling kids and trying to get home, and he's putting chairs away and cleaning up after a lot of folks. So we appreciate you and everything that you do and the environment that you create there, because a lot of it is positive because of you.
Can I just say it?
Yeah, sure. What?
I'll wait till 2 years.
Oh, okay. All right, we'll put you on the agenda for May of 2027. We'll see you then.
I'm gonna try.
That's good.
All right, thank you.
You bet.
Thank you.
Thanks
Good
for coming,
night.
everybody. Bye, Don. Steve.
For those who can't see what's happening, several of Bobby's colleagues were actually here to support him and are making their way out the door. So what a great show of support for someone who's been so present for the district for so long. So very grateful. All right.
All right. We're moving on to bright lights, and by no means are you third in line. We're very excited to have you as well. And so our core robotics team, we try to make this an annual event where we bring them in, Brian and Nancy Farrell as their leaders, many mentors, and some students from the team. They bring their robot. Luckily, we have the nice elevator here to be able to get that off. Okay. And we are happy to have you tell us a little bit about how your season and how everything is going.
Good evening, I am Kirsten, and I am a junior at Waukesha North and the outreach lead at CORE.
Hi, I'm Simon. I'm an exchange student from Spain, this year at North, and I'm a junior, and I'm in the controls sub-team.
We are CORE 2062, otherwise known as the Community of Robotics Engineers. CORE is the high school robotics team for the school district of Waukesha. We are a part of an organization known as FIRST, which stands for Inspiration and Recognition of Science and Technology.
FIRST is a global organization and is the world's leading youth-serving non-profit advancing STEM education. FIRST's mission is to inspire young people to become science and technology leaders of the future. This is accomplished through exciting mentor-based programs that build science, engineering, and technology skills, inspire innovation, and foster well-rounded life capabilities, including self-confidence, communication, and leadership.
FIRST has a great impact on students of all ages, building skills that help students in the classroom and beyond. This not only builds up hard skills in STEM, but also a variety of soft skills. FIRST helps students by using hands-on learning and helps build teamwork as students have to work together to solve real-world problems.
FIRST also exposes students to a global community of engineers and innovators, which leads to students having a greater understanding of the opportunities they have. This helps students build a network for the future.
An emphasis on FIRST core values help guide students. The core values of FIRST are diversity, innovation, impact, inclusion, teamwork, and fun. These values help guide students in their pursuits in and outside the classroom. These values help build a unique culture in which young leaders in STEM are celebrated and are able to showcase what they have learned and created in the FIRST program.
As you have heard, one of FIRST's core values is inclusion. FIRST offers 3 programs with different challenges depending upon the age range. The one for the youngest age group is the FIRST LEGO League, or FLL, which introduces STEM to elementary and middle school students. They gain real-world problem-solving experiences through a guided global robotics program.
The next program is the FIRST Tech Challenge, or FTC, where middle school through high school students learn to think like engineers. Teams build, design, and program robots to compete in an alliance format against other teams. Robots are built from a reusable platform powered by Android technology and are coded using block programming or Java-based programming.
FIRST Robotics Competition, or FRC, is for high school students and is the program which we participate in. FRC teams design, program, and build a robot using a common set of rules to play in a theme head-to-head challenge, which changes every year. Teams also build a brand, develop community partnerships for support, and work to promote the STEM in their local community.
The FRC season kicks off on the first Saturday of January when the game's challenge is revealed. Teams are allowed to build a robot with a maximum weight of around 125 pounds and 120 inches in perimeter. When the season kicks off, all FRC teams are given the same challenge and 6 weeks to fully design, build, wire, and program a robot for competition.
Running an FRC team is a lot like running a business. Teams have to fundraise, mostly through corporate sponsorships, and have to manage that money when buying parts for a robot or paying for the team to go to competitions. FRC teams often do fundraising outside of the build and competition season. CORE is active year-round, which means that we promote STEM year-round.
Our mission statement is CORE 2062 strives to be a place where the passions of our students become skills, concepts transform into physical products, and zeal creates a positive community impact.
This shows just exactly what CORE 2062 is and what we strive to do. Not all CORE members are from the same high school. CORE is the school district of Waukesha's team, which includes all students within the district, as well as homeschooled students. This past season we had about 30 students and 10 mentors.
CORE has a significant impact on the local community as well, participating in 112 FLL and outreach events from 2022 to 2024. As well as that, we reached over 49,000 people and contributed 8,271 impact hours at these events.
One of our highlights of the 2025 season is that we hosted and ran the Wisconsin State FLL Championship in January. We were proud to have Dr. Siebert join us to welcome 28 FLL teams from around the state. With this event, in addition to the FLL scrimmage and sectional that we host each year, we reached over 2,000 people at our FLL events.
At our FRC tournaments, teams compete in alliances of 3 teams, leading to a 3v3 format every game. We competed at 2 different competitions this season. At our first competition in lacrosse, we were ranked 42nd overall. While disappointed with our ranking, we were pleased to win the Industrial Design Award, which celebrates the team that demonstrates industrial design principles, striking a balance between form, function, and aesthetics.
With our second competition the next weekend, we worked through our spring break to improve our robot. In 3.5 days, we put in over 40 hours of work. At our second competition in McWanago, our robot performed much better, and our team ranked 34th overall.
Before our first competition, our robot was finished a few days before the competition, so our programming and drive time was minimal. This resulted in slower cycles, times, and more issues. For our second competition, however, our robot had more advanced programming and the drive team had more practice. So the scoring cycle times were much faster, and there was a lot less robot part breakage. We feel that it was worth the time we spent during spring break to help the robot. The robot was overall more consistent, being able to score more points on average than our previous robot.
We also have had a great community impact after the current season. Since March, we've done an Earth Day cleanup with Waukesha Parks and Rec, led Girl Scouts to end their robotics badge, met with a sponsor, and led an Intro to Engineering with LEGO. class at Millbrook School. We are also preparing to meet with our 8th graders, lead our annual Girls on STEM event, and other outreach events. This summer, some of our activities include showing our robot at Waukesha County Fair and leading a STEM activity at the Park Rex movie night before the showing of Wild Robot.
One area CORE is working to improve is our feeder program. In the past 2 years, CORE has held 5 information nights. From these events, we have coordinated with interested families and helped them form 5 FLL Challenge teams and 13 FLL Explore teams within the Waukesha School District. We will be hosting more FLL informational nights this summer as well.
We would love for each school district of Waukesha Elementary School to have at least one FLL Challenge team and Explore team. We also envision our district's middle schools having either FLL or FTC teams. With your partnership, we can have more easily implement FLL in our elementary and middle schools and raise funding for LEGO robotics and or FTC equipment. As well, we can further invest into the Waukesha Engineering Preparatory Academy and CORE by improving the space and machinery. Thank you all.
Thank you for your time. Any questions?
Very nice presentation, first of all, thank you. Anyone with questions or comments? Mr. Zenobia.
Thank you. Well, congratulations to you and everyone involved. That's amazing accomplishments. We always ask as a board, and sometimes we're told what people are going to go and do on in college and what your plans are individually. But, and while we'd love to hear that, I would like to know, maybe from your perspective and maybe what you and your classmates have talked about, how do you see your skills that you're learning today in a very rapidly changing world with technology and how quickly it's advancing? What skills and things have you learned today that you can kind of see where your careers or your life paths may go, knowing all that?
So for me, CORE definitely improved my communication skills. When I was a freshman on the team, I couldn't even talk to my own teammates, never mind a sponsor from a multi-million-dollar corporation. So just being able to talk to other people in a professional environment, I think, is vital to my future in any major that I go into. I'm currently thinking about either business or criminal justice, so that is something that I will definitely see myself using forward.
For me, even though this is my first time at CORE, I think it has helped me grow as a person, making it easier to work with more people, learn how it is in reality to be like in an actual working environment. And also, in career related, I think it has helped me finally decide that I want to go into engineering. And that has given me the opportunity to really try, okay, is this what I like and what I want to spend the rest of my life doing or not? So I think that has been really important. And I've also met a lot of amazing people, and it has been great.
Anybody else? Mr. Harland.
Are you able to give us a brief overview of what the challenge or the task that you were assigned to handle and how your robot addressed that?
Okay, so this year our theme was reefs, specifically cleaning the reefs. So our robot is right here, and the game consisted of a coral-like structure in which we had to put the coral onto. So we're building coral, but at the same time, on the structure, there is these green, like, large dodgeballs. We call them algae, and they had to be removed to be able to place the coral onto it. So our robot could remove the algae, and then using this arm, could place the coral onto the structure, and that's what we do, our cycle times. Our cycle times is how fast can we get this onto the coral. And then there was another aspect of it called climb, which is like we had to climb. We had a prototype for it, but unfortunately that did not make the cut because we wanted to focus more on removing algae. What this robot can also do is it can score this algae into what they call the barge. It's about 10 feet, So this robot can go all the way up, and then it'll shoot the algae into this net, and that's the barge. Want to add anything, Alec? Yes, and the coral was at like, there was level 1, 2, 3, 4, so, yeah. Any other questions?
Anybody else? Just a comment, because you guys are so impressive in terms of your communication and what you're describing. As an engineer, I can tell you that those that are most successful have great communication skills and are able to describe not only the problem that they're trying to solve, but the technology and how they're applying the technology in ways that lay people can understand what it is that you did with a degree of enthusiasm. And you guys nailed that. So I'm super impressed. This isn't just an engineering project that you've taken on. I can hear in your voices just the passion, the evangelism for your program and wanting to have others excited and have the opportunity to be a part of it. And so that's really impressive. You are all very impressive. We're super proud of you. You've accomplished a ton. And you've got a tremendous leadership team too, who has just continued to produce a really high-quality program. So we're really proud of all of you and did a really nice job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And before you leave us, I'd also like to do yet another special recognition. So if we could have Brian and Nancy Farrell come to the podium, I would appreciate that. You guys can stay too. You don't have to leave. Brian and Nancy, I want you to know that it was my pleasure to nominate you for a WASDA, which is the Wisconsin Association of School District Administrators Child Advocacy Award. And as you have led our Core Robotics 2062 team as volunteers since 2006, helping all of our students in the School District of Waukesha, as well as our homeschooled students in Waukesha, have these opportunities. I'm going to try not to repeat things that the kids already said. I'm reading kind of off of what I submitted. But in addition to your continually inspiring self-confidence, leadership, life skills, working side by side to solve that engineering problem to Mr. Harlan's point that changes year after year, your first LEGO League, over 8,000 hours of service that you've put in impact hours. And I know that all of the numerous mentors that serve under your tutelage are amazing as well, but none of this happens without your passion for nearly the last 20 years. And our students in the School District of Waukesha are the true beneficiaries of that. And I just want you to know how much we appreciate your commitment and your dedication and how much you mean to us and to our students. And I'd like to come out and present you with a certificate.
He's been the one who's been doing it since 2006, not me. If you can't beat him, join him.
Thank you. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you. And it's really a collaboration with all of our mentors. It's not just
Yeah,
us.
it's a team of mentors. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, and thank you guys for being here. How well did the robot fit in the elevator?
Take the bumpers off it.
Okay.
Through the door.
We had to deconstruct it partially, but I got it in. Okay.
Yep, going through the door, it needs the bumpers off. Just take it out. Bumpers off or? Oh, get through this door.
See ya. All right. Next up, we have a report by our student representatives. Small change of plans tonight. We don't have we don't have an eAchieve rep tonight. Yeah. Okay. So Madeline Klausmeyer, she's unable to report tonight due to illness. Of course, we wish her a speedy recovery, and we are happy to welcome Gavin Hill to tell us about what's happening at East. Hi, Gavin. Welcome.
Hey, good evening, guys. Can you hear me good? All right.
got a little bit of a scrap paper here just so I can read off of this. So, all right. Well, I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Gavin Hilmariani. I'm a student at Waukesha East here. I'm a senior, 18 years old, and it's my first year attending at Waukesha East. I used to go to North, Waukesha North. It's a school where Janet, what was his name? Bobby, correct? Bobby was a staff member there. I actually met him a few times, but yeah, I was a student there for 3 years, and yeah, I'm at Waukesha East now, and it's been pretty great. So, yeah. Would you guys like me to kind of elaborate on Waukesha East itself, or? All right, well, I'll start with that. All right. My backstory, I struggled a lot at Waukesha North. Reason being, I made a lot of poor choices as a student, and I am very vulnerable in saying that. I was very hyperactive. I ran around, didn't really pay attention much at school. It wasn't really a necessity to me to do so. So I kind of messed around a bit, and I can be vulnerable enough to admit that, right? So I took accountability, and I decided it was time for a change, and I took myself and my father, and we marched up to Waukesha East one day when it was open house, and we kind of demanded an education, in other words, and it worked out smoothly. Miss Poppy was kind of surprised and taken off by guard, and it was a great time, though. I met a lot of good people, and through and through, it was a great time. So through this time at Waukesha East has helped me in many ways. Communication skills, durable skills, which is a MLT, as we know, in the Waukesha East curriculum. I worked a lot with students and talking to students. I have a fishing class I took in Mr. Kalpinski's class in the beginning of the school year, which helped me a lot with working among people. I was never good with working with people. I was kind of stubborn, and I like to do things in my own way, you know? And I kind of never minded other people's opinions in a way. So I worked a lot with students. Fishing was one of my favorite hobbies, which I never knew until I attended Waukesha East. It's helped me a lot. Waukesha East has taught me fishing is a fun hobby, as well as it teaches you patience. It teaches you resilience, because that bass might bite you and rip your line, but you got to retie that line and keep going, you know? A few subjects that I like working on at Waukesha East has to be English with Mr. Diedrich, if you guys have heard of him. He's a great teacher, by the way. He's helped me a lot with, then again, MLTs, which I've been knocking down on my M's, because in the beginning of the school year, I kind of was behind a little bit, a few obstacles in the way, but yeah, so I mean, at the end of the day, Mr. Diedrich, if I could give him a shout out if he's watching this right now in the news, as well as Miss Middich. Miss Middich is a great teacher there. She's helped me a lot in crew with challenges. I'm sure you guys have heard of them. Challenges are a type of, it's kind of an implement in crew, kind of, I don't know how to elaborate on it exactly, but if I could just elaborate more on Waukesha East. Sorry, guys, I have stage fright, so I'm kind of nervous up here. Let's see here. All right, yeah, so I also wanted to share this. So I've actually had quite a relationship with Miss Poppy. In the beginning of the school year, I was a little bit of a rough guy. I was a little rough and tough. Coming back from Waukesha North, I was stuck in my ways, and I was very stubborn then again. And Miss Poppy has taught me a lot about patience and speaking my mind and speaking how I feel in the moment. And kind of taking a breather and taking a step back, if that makes sense. I discovered a new route I want to go in life. I want to join the U.S. Air Force, actually, United States Air Force. I initially wanted to go into the Marine Corps. Miss Poppy actually told me a lot about her father, who is a United States Marine Corps veteran, and it kind of inspired me to join the Marine Corps. I educated myself a little bit, and, you know, the Marine Corps just isn't for me. You know, maybe it's for the few and the proud, but just not me, right? I want to go into the Air Force and further educate myself in certain career fields, maybe with avionics, aviation, something with cybersecurity even, depending on my ASVAB score, obviously. That's pretty much the entry-level way, and go into that. But yeah, so I mean, Waukesha East has definitely directed me in a path that I personally never knew I was going to go into, right? I have an interest in politics now. Now, it's kind of weird to say. Now, it's public affairs and politics are very interesting to me. Reason being, standing up on this stage and talking in front of people is great. It's fun. It's nerve-wracking. I was told by many people, especially Mr. Dieter, to kind of step out of my comfort zone, step out and do something that you're not comfortable with doing, because by doing that, you'll learn. I'll definitely remember this moment. Now, what I did yesterday, I'm not going to remember because it wasn't stepping out of my comfort zone. Today, I stepped in front of important folks of the Waukesha School District and board that now I'm going to remember this, and it's going to stick with me. It's definitely going to teach me a little bit about talking in front of people. I'm kind of yapping a little bit. I apologize, guys. But, yeah, I mean, if there's any specific questions you guys would like to ask, I'd love to answer them. I'm sorry, I'm kind of out of page here. I mean, if you guys would like to know about some of the projects, would that be okay if I could explain and elaborate? All right, so one of the ones that stand out to me would be the Make an Impact projects. Now, This was my first time, and I'm pretty sure the first year that Waukesha East has done it. Maybe I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Poppy. Sorry, guys, I just bumped my face with this mic. But they Make an Impact project. Now, what it is essentially is you design an impact. Now, you create it could be, for example, for me, I'm doing anti-drug awareness. Now, a lot of people that I personally know, even close family members, have struggled with drug abuse, and I like to bring awareness to that. Going to Waukesha North, I never indulged into drug abuse or any sort of drug usage, but I did have friends that did. And the thing that stood out to me is it was the young crowd of freshmen and sophomores that always were very vulnerable to this, and they were very, they'd fall into it very easy. You know, they didn't really have guidance, and they didn't really have people to tell them that's not right. Now, having an authoritative figure like a police officer, like Officer Ernst at Waukesha North, shout out to him as well, great guy, stand-up guy, great guy. You know, having an authoritative figure tell you that something's wrong, you're going to want to combat that. Now, it's not really something that you really think of, like, this guy's telling me it's wrong, I'm gonna do what he tells me not to do. It's more of a second nature thing, not having a role model and someone to tell you something's wrong. You're going to find a way to do something that you think in the moment is okay based on emotion, right? So what I want to do personally is I want to create pamphlets similar to DARE. DARE is I'm sure everyone in this room has heard of DARE. As a kid going to elementary school, I always saw DARE posters everywhere, but nobody was really talking about it. Nobody was really pushing the agenda that drug abuse and drug awareness is a very important thing that we should pay more attention to. It's a crisis, you know, and I want to bring awareness to it by creating some sort of slides or even pamphlets to essentially show the freshmen and sophomores and eighth graders that drug abuse and drug awareness is very important. It's a very essential thing in life, you know. It's very accessible, especially in the streets, and a lot of people get taken away by that, and I'd like to kind of spread awareness. Some of the other projects that we're working on, my buddy is doing a public service announcement about the effects of technology. A lot of people undermine technology. Now, technology is great, but sometimes spending too much time on it can kind of interrupt your social skills, not being able to talk to people and spend time with people as you should, right? Other people are doing donations, right? So we have a small group of people collecting necessities for Catholic charities, clothing, toothbrushes, soap, socks, and perishable items that are donatable. We're doing many fundraisers in that kind of way. But yeah, honestly, I gotta say, design and create an impact has been one of the biggest projects to stand out to me for that exact reason. It kind of gives students a chance to choose what they want to work on, just like Waukesha East kind of does. It's really project-based learning, and that's what a lot of people undermine about Waukesha East. It's technically labeled as an alternative school. To me, it's not. To me, it's a project-based learning, and that's just how I learn, like many other students, right? So being able to kind of choose what you want to do and also earn an education by doing that is a great way of going about it. Now, obviously, there's some guidelines and rules. You know, you can't just go and do backflips and get a GED or, you know, high school diploma doing that, but you gotta put some thought into it. But yeah, as seniors, we're all excited to graduate. I've been in school for 12 long years, and I'm ready to get out. You know, nothing on you guys are great people, but, you know, I've been in the Waukesha School District for 8 years, moved here when I was about 10 years old with my father, and I attended Bethesda, if anyone's familiar with that school, and I attended this school, which I'm standing in right now, which looks totally different, by the way. But I also wanted to say hi, Miss Koenig. She's actually my 6th grade middle school teacher for my first hour. Her and me have a great past. I was a bit of a rough and tough guy with her as well, and she didn't snap me into place, but she taught me a lot of skills that I needed for sure. Also, one thing that stood out to me about Ms. Koenig is that she was a great teacher with root words. She taught me a very specific, and every other student in the building, matter of fact, root words. So one of the ones that stood out to me was the root word inter, among or between. I remember that exactly, her saying that, because a lot of the words that we don't understand, when someone's speaking of high vocabulary and they're speaking in very, almost like in tongues, and you're a young kid, you're like, what are you talking about? You know, I don't know what this word means, but when you look at the root word and the suffixes, it makes sense. It's like building pieces, you know, Legos. So when you put inter among, you know, it adds up, you know. At the top of my noggin, I can't really think, but, you know, I gotta say, it's definitely something that you gotta pay attention to. Root words and suffixes are greatly important, especially in vocabulary, which I'm sure you guys can tell I'm not very good at in the moment, but I apologize, guys. But yeah, one more thing I want to put out about Waukesha East. This is just kind of like a personal shout out to Miss Bentley and Miss Kozak, two of the guidance counselors. Now, I'm sure Miss Bentley is a guidance counselor, but not sure about Miss Kozak exactly what her position is, but they're great people, great people. I've had a little bit of a rough year, a change in life, a bit of a switch, and they've helped me with resources. They've helped me with counseling. They've talked to me personally and kind of pointed me in the right direction about certain things I should work on, what I should do about this, what I should do about that. Great people, by the way. Waukesha East is full of great souls. God bless the people at Waukesha East. I mean, a lot of people have a bad look on Waukesha East that you get kicked out of school, you ended up at Waukesha East. It's not like that. It's a privilege to be at Waukesha East, and a lot of people undermine that. I want people to understand that it's a resource. If you're more of a project-based learner, attend Waukesha East. It's really a great way of getting education while simultaneously meeting great people. I've never met a bad person at Waukesha East. I may have had a rough and tough moment with some people, but that's just me as a person. I'm working on it personally. So I just want to say thank you guys at Waukesha East. If you guys are watching, then again.
Dylan, let's see if there's any questions from the board members for you. Thank you so much. You're super charismatic.
I try my best.
Mr. Watt.
Thank you. Thanks for coming, Gavin. It was a great presentation. I know personally, in a district with many success stories that all of us at this table and within the district are proud of, I think one of them that I'm proudest of is what I see coming from the students at East. Every year we have students come in here and talk about how East has transformed their lives and given them purpose and direction. And yeah, I heard the same thing from you tonight. I'm curious, as somebody who went through North for 3 years and spent just 1 year at East, I mean, that's an amazing transformation that occurs in such a short period of time. What was it specifically about East for you that sort of transformed your perspective on what you wanted to do and your appreciation for education and driving for that success, et cetera?
Yeah, so I guess the biggest driver for me with Waukesha East, well, I'll start with this. Waukesha North is a great school, right? I'm not downplaying Waukesha North by any means necessary. It's just not for everybody is it to be in a classroom full of 20-some kids and listen to a teacher talk about some subject that maybe I don't understand is easy, right? So at Waukesha East, they're very specific with the way they teach you. Now, I got to say, independent learning is a lot better for me personally with Mr. Diedrich. I'll use him as an example. So in the beginning of the school year, we did always something called a weekly journal. Essentially what it was every day when we got to school, we'd get to school at about 8:30, and we'd start our English class with a writing prompt. And essentially what that writing prompt consisted of was a question. What was the best day of your life? What's your dog's name? What color shoes are you wearing and why are they the best color? Something as simple as that kind of taught me how to do simple punctuation and different rules in the English vocabulary. And he had to sit down and teach me what was the right way to use a parentheses, a colon, a comma. Now, some people like me who never paid attention at North wouldn't understand what a comma was and how to use it correctly in the right context, right? So you could put 30 commas in there and it just make no sense. It just wouldn't make sense to put 30 commas down. So as I'm getting at, regardless, it's definitely more independent, right? So teachers will sit down with you and really point out the easy stuff that I would always overlook. Math especially. I was never a good math student. I mean, math is never my strong suit, and it never was. Now, I've definitely learned a lot about geometry and algebra being at Waukesha East. Mr. Diedrich, then again, and Ms. Middich as well, have taught me so much about math, and it's honestly kind of fun. Once you get a grasp of math, it starts being like second nature, like doing a backflip. Like I make backflip jokes, but backflips are pretty easy once you learn how to do it. Same thing with math, it's all just a learning experience. Once you grasp something and you get it, it's like you can't let go. You just want to keep doing it because you feel enjoyable by doing it. You know what I mean? So I guess being an independent learner, I guess you could say, working with teachers and actually being able to sit down and then pointing out the easy works and inner workings of certain projects, I guess you could say in general, just learning as a whole is just a lot easier at Waukesha East for me for those specific reasons, yeah.
Other questions for Gavin? Mrs. Koenig?
Oh, I just have to. First of all, Gavin, I could not be prouder of watching you up there. I'm not surprised at all, though. I could see this coming. If you would have told me this would happen 6 years from now, I would have been like, yep, I could see it. you definitely went to the beat of your own drum, and there's nothing wrong with that. You just found when things weren't relevant to you, you struggled with trying to, to go along with what everyone else was doing, even though you yourself couldn't figure out why is this important. Word study was funny. Remember how we have competitions and you would rebel the group, like, come on, we have to beat the afternoon group, and you would get so mad when people weren't studying.
Yeah.
Because we had, remember the word study game?
Yeah.
And I
remember
oh
that.
my gosh, but you were one of the students where that was one thing that sparked you, and you were really, adamant about everybody, go home and practice. We got to beat the afternoon group.
Right.
But I couldn't be more proud of you. And I remember conversations with, remember my daughter's in the Air Force.
Yeah.
We talked many times. Even back then, you talked about the military.
Yeah.
I think it's a really great direction for you. I can see you thriving there. But I am so proud of you. I had never doubt that I would see you here today. I'm glad that everything just clicked, and I'm glad that East gave you that opportunity to be able to, first of all, realign yourself and make those changes you needed to, because, I remember many times, maybe you remember when you were struggling in 7th and 8th grade, and you were asked to step out of the class for whatever reason. You would come in and during my break, and you'd sit on my beanbag chair, and you would just take 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I just let you do that because I knew you needed that, but I'm glad to see that you found a way to make, to cope and to change some things that you needed to change. And I feel like the future is so incredibly bright for you. I cannot wait to see what you're going to do.
Oh, yeah. I just want to make like a big statement. I've dealt with a lot of problems, like I said, this year, going through a lot of obstacle courses in the last 10 years. Miss Koenig has definitely been one of the biggest role models to me. 6th grade, like I said, I came to the school district fairly new. I was only about 2 years fresh. I was a young guy. Like any other 6th grader, it's entering a new environment. Being in middle school is a lot different than elementary school. So going to a school like Butler, where I met many people that had previously taught my cousin who was in the school district, there's many people that stood out to me, and Miss Koenig was one of the biggest ones. Mr. Wartzenloft, I remember the gym teacher. What a great guy. Mr. Lammers as well. Those two teachers stood out to me, as well as Mr. Caesars. He actually was my wrestling coach. I loved wrestling, by the way. I still do. It's one of my biggest, I guess you could say, attributes. I love wrestling a lot. I never got the chance to really take that sport further, as my grade point average wasn't as it should be my freshman and sophomore year, so I didn't get to attend his sports as much as I wanted to. But if I was to wrestle, I'd always pick Mr. Caesars as my coach. He was a great guy. Mr. Packwitz as well. He was great. But yeah, thank you, Miss Koenig. I appreciate it a lot. You being my teacher was definitely an honor. It was a pleasure. I'm sure anybody could say that, but deeply, I really mean that. You're a great person to stand out to me, and your guidance really helped me a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Gavin. You did a really good job tonight, and we're excited to see what the future holds. If military service is in your path to public affairs and politics, I think you're going to be wildly successful. So
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it.
we're
Thank
eager
you.
to see what's ahead for you. So thank you for being here tonight.
All right, God bless you all. Thank you.
Right, we are now at the point in our meeting where there's an opportunity for citizens to speak. We have one speaker registered tonight. When there are 6 speakers or less, speakers will be notified at 3 minutes, but allowed up to 5 minutes to complete their comments. We expect all speakers to honor our time limit, refrain from using any inappropriate language, and to be respectful in their comments. Speakers who do not meet these expectations may be prohibited from speaking at future board meetings. Speakers are here to address the board, not the audience. The school board does not endorse any comments made by members of the community here tonight. We'd like to remind our community members of the impact of their words on others and that our children are watching. We commit to communicating with you in respectful and productive ways and ask that you do the same. We also expect that the audience will be respectful of the speaker and of the board and refrain from responding with verbal comments, cheering, applause, or other behavior that will detract from the meeting. Please note that no obstructions can be created between the board and the audience. Visual aids cannot be used, and the area behind the speaker and podium shall be clear during public comment. Also, to respect our speakers and meeting participants, please silence your cell phones. Our speaker tonight is Paul Reese.
Good evening. I don't know, it's all Greek to me. That was great. It was great. And I appreciate David's remarks. East has been remarkable, what I've seen here. But tonight I want to talk about this district reducing its footprint by 10 to 15%, what its target is. And I want to say this, that first off, that I don't think anybody here is excited about this. I don't think anyone wants to do this. And there's a lot of ties in this community. I grew up, I graduated here from North in '86. You know, it's been a while, but, you know, I grew up here. I remember when we built West and Summit View, you know, then I'd much rather have the argument over what we're going to build, you know, than to have to close things down. That's never on the bright side. There is a solution to this, and people can start having more kids. That's the solution, you know. I waited till I was late, and it was great, but it's not a problem I can solve myself anymore, you know. It's just, that's what has to be done. You know, if you want to keep the community growing, you have to have more children. Because there's a problem here, when we have less kids coming in here, and we have less kids going to college, we're also gonna have less kids graduating college, and we have less teachers available. And we need linemen, we need everything. We can't just say, well, we need to have more teachers and magically pull them out of a hat. It doesn't work that way. Society would collapse that way because we need doctors, we need everything. We need machinists, we need mechanics, we need people in the ditches repairing roads. We have to have these things. So unfortunately, we're left with what we have to do. And we have to make tough choices here, and we have to close some things down. Now, we're talking about K through 8, and I'm not really excited about the fact that we limit ourselves right off the bat. See, I've heard a couple things about North closing, and never from anybody in here. It's always come from the usual suspects. Years ago it started about North closing. And it's like this from, the lady doth protest too much. Sometimes that comes to mind when I hear that, when people start saying, certain groups start saying that know more about how the schools are set up and know more about the population and everything than I surely do. When they start saying that start accusing you all of doing that, when I had never heard a word about that. That means they know that the population at North isn't that good and that our high schools are kind of empty. And I can see it when I go to see the sports. When I go to sporting events, I can see that. And so I was in, this is anecdotal purely, but I was in West yesterday, and I walked through the hall, and I looked at some of the lockers, and I saw a lot of them with zip ties where I was.
2 minutes.
And that tells me that it's an empty school. So we could combine our high schools, and if it's possible. And here's what I would say, is we would take North, break it up, take Butler, move Butler to North. It would have the greatest middle school facilities around. It's not uncommon. I know Portage did it years ago. That's how they do it. They move the middle school into the high school. And then you take STEM, and you close down both STEM schools down. I know they've always wanted to be in Butler. I know they always had their eye there. So you put them in Butler, and then you take a look at down, if STEM's in Butler and Butler is at North, can you close down Central and divide that up? You know, there's a lot of possibilities here to what you could do. And then the elementary school, I don't know the demographics of the city which ones where the population is for where it's needed. But you could do this, and you can look at all of it. And there's more than just K through 8, and then come back here in 2 years. You know, I think we're trying to avoid that. You know, and if we do grow, and people do get active again, and we have a boom, we can argue about what we're gonna build next, and where we're gonna build it. That's an argument I'm willing to have, you know? I have nothing wrong with that. But right now, we're faced with what we're faced. And it ain't looking good, and it's nothing that anybody is
30
looking forward to.
seconds.
But I thank you all, and I know it's a tough job, and thanks for doing it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move into our general business. First, though, I neglected at the beginning of the meeting to welcome Mrs. Gren to her first board meeting tonight. So welcome, Natalie Gren. We're happy that you're here. We will begin first with minute approval. We have 4 sets of minutes for your consideration. We have We have revised minutes for the April 9th board meeting that were placed at your desk. We have the April 9th executive session, April 28th special reorganization meeting, and the May 5th executive session expulsion panel. Mrs. White?
I move to approve the regular board meeting minutes from April 9th and the executive session from April 9th, the special board meeting reorganization from April 28th, and the executive session expulsion panel from May 5th, as presented.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Brooks. Anything else on that? Okay, Mrs. Ettinger, would you take the roll call, please?
Betty Koenig?
Aye.
Natalie Gren?
Aye.
Eric Brooks?
Aye.
David Wad?
Aye.
Anthony Zenobia?
Aye.
Thomas Harland?
Aye.
Carrie Kozlowski?
Aye.
Diane Voigt?
Aye.
Kelly Piasek?
Aye, passes 9-0. And next up is the WEF report with Mrs. Koenig.
Thank you, Madam President. The Waukesha Education Foundation Board of Directors met on May 1st, 2025, and I have a few informational items to share with you this evening. First is the WEF scholarships. We are looking forward to awarding almost $50,000 in scholarships this year. We go to South on May 14th, North on May 21st, and West on May 28th, and we'll award them during their scholarship events. Second item is WEF grants. We will be surprising winners soon, so stay tuned. And next is the 2025 Partners in Education Reception. That's on June 17th, 2025 at Carroll University from 4:30 p.m. to 6 o'clock p.m. This is a casual networking event, and all board members are encouraged to attend. You all should have received an invitation in your board packets. Whether you plan on attending or not, please RSVP, though, either way. And finally, it's time to start talking about golf. The 2025 golf outing is scheduled for August 7th, 2025 at Ironwood. We already met our goal for golfers with 174 golfers already committed. We will cap it at 216, so if you're thinking of signing up, please do so soon. We have a handful of sponsorships left. We're still accepting donations for the raffle and auction and have some fun new events planned. Visit wefgolf25.givesmart.com or text WEFGolf25 to 76278. Any questions about any of our events and efforts, please reach out to the WEF office at extension 1143 or email Lynette. Madam President, that concludes my WEF report. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Koenig. Moving into our consent agenda, we'll begin with presentation of the gifts by Mr. Clark.
Yeah, we have 6 gifts tonight. Waukesha West received $500 from David and Sarah Corricciato to be used for the, help cover the costs of a new pitching machine for the softball team. Banting Elementary received 2 gifts, $800 from Jessica Harris and $800 from New Resources Consulting LLC. Both of these are to be used for the lunch balances. Hadfield Elementary School received 3 gifts, $500 from Kenneth and Yvonne Miller to be used to support field trip costs, $500 from WCCF Cloeta Giving Fund, Mr. and Mrs. Scott Cloeta, in memory of Michelle Tranquita for the snack fund, and $11,600 from the Michelle Tranquita Fund to support snacks, clothing, field trips, and art expenses at Hadfield School.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clark, and thank you for everyone's generosity. In addition, your consent agenda includes various categories for approval. If any board member wishes to have an item set aside for separate consideration, you will have that opportunity in a moment. Included in the items for consideration and approval are the decisions of the May 5th, 2025 expulsion panel. A confidential communication regarding the details of the expulsion was in your expulsions were in your Friday packet, along with the minutes included under item 1H. If any board member wishes to discuss this item, we have scheduled an executive session at the close of the regular meeting. Approval of the consent agenda confirms full board agreement with the expulsion panel's action. Also included are policies for approval via the consent agenda. Policy 7450, property inventory. Policy 0155, committees. And and policy 8305, information security. If any board member wishes to have an item set aside for separate consideration, please indicate so at this time. Okay, seeing none, Mr. Zenobia, will you present additional details of the consent agenda for approval,
Dr.
please?
Piasek,
Yes,
I believe 7450 was pulled back to go to committee.
was that, okay.
Both were. Both were.
Okay. Let me clarify then, is included in the consent agenda, does not include policy 7450, which was returned by, that's right, that's correct. That's the FNF, it's the FNF piece. Let me reread that policies and bylaws. So policies for approval in the consent agenda then include only policy 0155 committees and policy 8305 information security. Thank you, Mrs. Kozlowski. Okay, Mr. Zenobia.
Thank you, Dr. Piasek. Earlier this evening, the Human Resources and Compensation Committee approved 7 resignations and 21 new or modified contracts. The information was provided in your packet, and an addendum was placed on your desk. I move that the consent agenda be approved as amended.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Wad. Anything else? All right, Mrs. Ettinger, would you take the roll call, please?
Carrie Kozlowski.
Aye.
David Wad.
Aye.
Betty Koenig.
Aye.
Eric Brooks.
Aye.
Diane Voigt.
Aye.
Natalie Gren.
Aye.
Anthony Zenobia.
Aye.
Thomas Harland.
Aye.
Kelly Piasek.
Aye, passes 9-0. Next up is the superintendent's report.
All right, thank you, Dr. Piasek. We'll begin this evening, as we normally do, with the overnight field trip report given by Ms. Kennerman.
Good evening. I have the following field trips that were approved recently. So one for North, which was the college tours overnight. They visited several colleges. Another one for North, which is a choir trip to Orlando to perform at Disney. This would likely take place in May of 2026. And then one for West, cheerleading camp. That will be in Kenosha, and that's in July this year, 2025.
All right, thank you, Ms. Kennerman. Tonight, what I wanted to do is highlight our employee recognition and retirement events that we hosted both in April and May, and thank you to so many of you for attending those. Between those two events, we recognized 50 staff members for 10 years of service, 22 staff members for 15 years of service, 34 staff members for 20 years of service, 10 staff members for 25 years of service, 14 staff members for 30 years of service, 3 staff members for 35 years of service, and as you saw tonight, 1 staff member for 50 years of service. And we also had 35 staff members that we recognized who are retiring after this school year. So I bring that up because that's a total of 169 staff members who reached significant career milestones, and we couldn't be more proud that that happened right here in the school district of Waukesha. I also want to mention that it's kind of hard to believe, but our next board meeting will occur on the last day of school. And so school will be over by the time that we meet. So that means that the 24-25 school year is rapidly approaching. And I just want to thank all of our staff, our kids, and our families for what's been a really solid and positive school year, and encourage everyone to have a strong and fantastic finish. So that concludes my report, Dr. Piasek. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Siebert. Hard to believe it's almost the end of the school year, for sure.
Yes.
All right, we'll move into our committee reports. Our first committee report tonight is the Finance and Facilities Committee given by Mrs. Kozlowski.
Thank you, Dr. Piasek. The Finance and Facilities Committee met on Monday, May 12th. There were 4 action items and 2 discussion items. The first action item is a North High School land transfer agreements with the City of Waukesha. The administration presented an agreement related to the drainage field improvement project at North High School. The agreement incorporates the necessary land and easement transactions between the city and the school district. The committee approved the North High School drainage project land transfer agreements with the City of Waukesha as presented, and I so move.
I second it.
Thank you. Seconded by Mrs. Voigt. Anything else on that matter? Okay, Mrs. Ettinger, would you take the roll call, please?
Anthony Zenobia.
Aye.
Eric Brooks.
Aye.
Carrie Kozlowski.
Aye.
Thomas Harland.
Aye.
Natalie Gren.
Aye.
Diane Voigt.
Aye.
Betty Koenig.
Aye.
David Wad.
Aye.
Kelly Piasek.
Aye, passes 9-0.
The second action item is the designation of fund balance for future core curriculum resources. The committee was presented with a financing plan for pre-funding anticipated curriculum expenditures by designating Fund 10 fund balance. The topic had also been discussed at a teaching and learning committee earlier in the year. The committee approved the designation of $1.5 million in committed Fund 10 fund balance for the sole purpose of funding the future core curriculum resources, and I so move.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Wad. Any questions or discussion? Mrs. Ettinger?
Thomas Harland.
Aye.
Diane Voigt.
Aye.
Betty Koenig.
Aye.
Anthony Zenobia.
Aye.
David Wad.
Aye.
Carrie Kozlowski.
Aye.
Natalie Gren.
Aye.
Eric Brooks.
Aye.
Kelly Piasek.
Aye, passes 9-0.
The third action item is the We Energies easement request. The administration brought forward 2 We Energies easement requests for consideration, one at Meadowbrook Elementary and one at Bethesda Elementary. The work at Meadowbrook will improve electrical service to the school and the surrounding neighborhoods. The work at Bethesda will replace existing aerial service lines with underground lines. The committee approved the easement request for Meadowbrook and Bethesda as presented, and I so move.
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Koenig. Anything else? Okay, Mrs. Ettinger?
David Wad.
Aye.
Thomas Harland.
Aye.
Diane Voigt.
Aye.
Natalie Gren.
Aye.
Betty Koenig.
Aye.
Anthony Zenobia.
Aye.
Eric Brooks.
Aye.
Carrie Kozlowski.
Aye.
Kelly Piasek.
Aye, passes 9-0.
And the last item was Policy 7450, Property Inventory, and Policy 6321, Outstanding Checks, new policy. Both policies are being brought back to the committee for future consideration. Moving to the discussion and information items, the first discussion item is the monthly budget report. The committee was presented with an update on the school district's fiscal activity through April 30th. It was reported that the district received scheduled tax levy payments in April and that the second to last principal long-term debt payment was completed. Woo-hoo on the long-term debt, that's a big deal. The second discussion item was the district long-range budget planning, optimizing the future, Phase 2. The administration presented an update on the district's long-range budget planning process, which included a recap of Phase 1 of the process and a review of the anticipated timeline as we enter into Phase 2.
Mr. Wad?
Yeah, I just wanted to take a moment to thank Mr. Siebert, Darren, or Mr. Clark, and the other folks from the administration who were involved in the public information sessions. I had the opportunity to attend a couple of them. I thought they were extremely well done, made a very compelling case for why there are these plans that are needed going forward. I will admit that I was a little skeptical about using the QR code for frequently asked questions. I wondered if the public might be more interested in being able to have more of a discussion around it. But I thought it went extremely well. I thought we got lots of great questions, maybe that wouldn't have gotten asked if people didn't have that opportunity to maybe do it more anonymously. And I thought the answers were very honest and transparent. All in all, I thought that was extremely successful. I hope we've got a lot of people who are going back and watching that didn't get a chance to attend, because I think the numbers we heard were 55 people that attended, and I'd really like to think that a lot more of the residents of our district familiarize themselves with that, because the information was great, and I just want to commend you all for the job you did. It was really, really well done.
You're here.
The next Finance and Facilities meeting is scheduled for Monday, June 9th, 2025 at 5:30. Sorry, I'm going to sneeze in the boardroom. And Dr. Piasek, this concludes my report. Sorry.
Look at the light. All right, we will move on to our next committee report. Thank you, Mrs. Kozlowski, which is Teaching and Learning, presented by Mrs. Koenig.
Thank you, Madam President. The Teaching and Learning Committee met last week, Tuesday, May 6, 2025. We have one action item and two information discussion items that appear on the agenda for teaching and learning this evening. Our action item is the approval of AP Economics resource. The last revision of AP Economics occurred in 2006 with little to no updates since then. The teaching and learning team first presented information on this topic in March as part of the curricular resource renewal process since the current text expires in July of 2025. The team recommended the updated version of the text, Krugman's Economics for the AP course, for future use in the AP Economics course. The team also provided the course outline and explained the rationale for the decision, which supports better alignment and preparation for the macro and micro exams. On a vote of 5-0, the Teaching and Learning Committee approved Krugman's Economics for the AP course as presented. The committee requests board approval, and I so move.
Second.
It was a tie. I'm going to give it to Mr. Zenobia.
Thank you.
Seconded by Mr. Zenobia, who was officially the only econ major in the room, so we have to give it to him, right? Any other questions? All right, Mrs. Ettinger, would you take the roll call?
Diane Voigt,
Aye.
Betty Koenig,
Aye.
Natalie Gren,
Aye.
Carrie Kozlowski,
Aye.
Eric Brooks.
Aye.
David Wad.
Aye.
Thomas Harland.
Aye.
Anthony Zenobia.
Aye.
Kelly Piasek.
Aye, passes 9-0.
Okay. Our first information and discussion item is the new board policy 5411, third grade promotion and retention for at-risk students. In 2023, Wisconsin enacted Act 20 to strengthen early literacy efforts. As part of this law, school districts are required to adopt a policy governing promotion from third to fourth grade by July 1st, 2025, with an enforcement date of no later than September 1st, 2027. The committee reviewed a draft policy provided by Neola, which was based on model policy and guidance from the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction. The TNL committee discussed the new policy for the first time last week. The administration will make some adjustments incorporating board feedback and present it for consideration of approval during the June meeting cycle.
Mr. Harland?
Yep. So I know during the committee it was discussed communication out to the parents regarding this potential policy, and that it was stated that some communication had already taken place. I do have a kindergartner who would be the first crew going through this. I don't feel confident that it has been communicated very well. Could we relook at the communication plan out to students and families on that?
We can definitely look at it. Much of our communication was likely around the assessments that we're using for Act 20 and student results, depending on each grade. But we can double check and circle back around the language regarding potential retention policy.
Thank you.
Can I clarify, are you talking about just the schedule of communication and the communication plan, or something specific with the details of the communication? Because I'd be curious about both.
Yeah, I guess all the above. So I would say that many of the families that I talked to in that same class really had no idea that this was even a possibility. I would say most people aren't paying super close attention to the Act 20 and how that is going to potentially impact the district.
I think I had raised the question during the meeting, if that had been communicated to this year's kindergarten class and their families. And I think that was something that they said that they were preparing or had sent initial information out, but wasn't clear.
Yes, as Act 20 has progressed, we knew there would be likely a recommended policy coming forward, but we did not get this till this time in the year. And so we have been communicating student assessment results related to the testing that is required as part of Act 20. And then also we've been communicating with families of students who do have a personalized reading program, or reading plan. We likely haven't said directly, this is going to be considered regarding if, as part of the retention evaluation or retention and promotion, future potential policy. So we didn't even have this policy when we started some of the work. And so we want to first bring it here, and then we will bring more information to families.
Mr. Brooks?
Thank you. Yeah, I first of all, I wanted to just thank Melissa Yao and her team for all the work that they've been putting in on Act 20 implementation. I know it's a lot that we are asking of our staff and our teachers, but it's incredibly important work, and I know how dedicated they are and how hard they're working to make all of this happen for our district. As somebody who had the privilege of working on the Act 20 legislation in my day job, this is something that means a lot to me, and I think, we have an opportunity to do it really well here in Waukesha and make a difference for our kids. The retention piece, when the bill was coming up, was one of the biggest points of contention between the legislature and DPI. DPI is not a big fan of retention, and I certainly understand that, nobody likes having to retain students. I understand the stigma around social promotion and things like that, and I know not everybody likes it when I say this, but we are not doing our kids favors by just passing them along and moving them from grade level to grade level without actually educating them how we need to educate them. And I understand, the fear that kids might feel bad if they're held back in third grade, but the statistics for when we continue to pass kids along and they aren't reading at grade level by the time they get out of third grade are damaging to them, and we are not doing them any good by just passing them along. Something like 70% of inmates are not reading beyond a fourth grade reading level. You're 88% of students who don't receive a diploma were low literate by the time they were in third grade. You are much more likely to become incarcerated. You're much more likely to end up on some form of government assistance if you are not literate by the time you leave third grade. And so I understand not wanting to make kids feel bad in third grade, but that kid's going to feel bad when they're sitting in a 12th grade classroom reading at a second grade reading level. And they're going to feel bad when they're sitting in a jail cell because our district wasn't educating them. So I would rather have them feel bad at a point where we have something that we can do about it to fix it than have them feel bad when it's too late and there's nothing else that we can do to help them. And I know that's a tough thing for people to hear, but when we're talking about retention, when we're talking about what we need to do here, we ultimately need to do what's best for the kid long term and not just what they're feeling in that moment.
Mr. Watt?
Yeah, I guess I have more sort of functional questions around the adoption of this policy. So we have this deadline of July 1st. What would be the implication if, for whatever reason, we weren't comfortable with the language we'd come up with of the process or the policy, and we didn't adopt it in June? What's the implication to the district if it's not adopted? If we feel like we need more time?
Mm-hmm. The statute specific, and I can let Mrs. Getterman address it too, but does specifically require that you either adopt the model policy that the DPI has provided or implement your own policy. So I think we have some reasonable drafts to work with. I think we had some good discussion that would get us to a point that we're comfortable with. I mean, there are only so many pathways that we can offer. So I don't think there's anything prohibiting us from making revisions to that policy once we get it implemented. I think the most important thing, kind of to Mr. Harlan's point, is that the communication that's going to families is consistent. And I think, I'm going to let Ms. Getterman address too. I think the intent of Act 20 is that these aren't surprises, right? The argument around retention is that, hey, surprise, you're not at grade level and you don't get to go to fourth grade, but we're starting these reading plans early in kindergarten, and that's why the implementation date isn't until September 1st of 2027. So I think that consistency is important, but we could adopt a model policy. We could make revisions to that. We just have to be sensitive, in my opinion, to what the parents and students are going to be experiencing. Mrs. Getterman, anything to add to that?
I was just going to highlight the opportunity we would have between now and when it's fully implemented to bring it back for revisions. When we met with our representatives from Neola around the policy that was brought forward, they did anticipate more revisions coming forward. So this Act 20 has been very fluid, and so I would just plan on more discussion and revisions that we can figure out our best next step together.
Yeah, if I could just follow up. So I appreciate that, and obviously there's thought being given to this, because it's clear to me, I mean, yes, there may be a limited number of paths that are available to us, but just in watching the committee meeting, it's clear that there are very strong feelings that people have about retention and how we are going to want to do that as a district. And I just want to make sure that, everyone has an opportunity to weigh in on it if they do have strong feelings about it, and that we ultimately adopt a policy where we have a strong consensus of this board that we're doing the right thing in that policy. And I understand that we'll get opportunities to revise if we need to, and right now our primary objective is to meet the statutory deadline. But I just want to make sure that we're, I just wanted to make sure we have enough runway to get a policy that we feel comfortable with in place by the deadline, and if not, what we needed to do if not.
Was there anything else, Mr. Wadd? Okay. I think, and this is something for the, that begins with the T&L committee, but it ultimately comes to the full board for approval. Again, the way that this statute is written, it's very clear what's required to promote. And then what the board needs to decide is how it handles students who don't meet those requirements. So that's where we have opportunity to do, what we think is appropriate for our student body. And I think that allows for pathways, but I think the consistency and the fairness of how those pathways are applied is really important. And ultimately, the parents have a significant amount of influence over that final decision, regardless of how many pathways we offer. Okay, this is Kate.
Okay, all right. Our second information discussion item tonight is the middle school schedule. The current middle school schedule was last revised in 2020. The middle school administrative team reviewed the current schedule and shared information about the electives that included the different scheduling formats, the departments, and then the number of classes offered at each grade. The team shared more about the process and the teacher team that has been focused on this work. 2 different scheduled options were presented, with one requiring an earlier start time for middle school students. In addition, information was shared about the potential of an elective pathway approach. Both schedules include daily instruction in the core subject areas with extended literacy and math blocks for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Both schedules allow for 2 elective blocks at each grade level. The team is recommending that the next schedule offer electives every other day for the semester or the year. This approach will support staffing flexibility between the middle school and the high school level. The team will continue this work to collect additional feedback from staff and students and parents, and plan to return to a future T&L committee meeting for further discussion and possible action. Okay, Madam President, that concludes the Teaching and Learning Committee report. Our next meeting will be held on Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025 at 7 p.m. in the boardroom here at the Blair Administration Building. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Koenig. Our next committee tonight is Student Services, presented by Mr. Harland.
Thank you, Madam President. The Student Services Committee meeting was held on May 6th, 2025. We did not have any action items, but we had 2 discussion and information items that were on the agenda. The first was an attendance update. Mark Lennerer, the Director of Student Services, provided information regarding the state attendance statutes, district policies and procedures, as well as the Waukesha County Truancy Task Force. The district goal is to create an environment that strengthens the partnership between families and schools. From daily text and phone notifications to medical excuse needed letters to habitual truancy meetings, the goal is to create relationships with students in a positive and welcoming environment. However, when interventions do not succeed, Student Services staff work with school resource officers to determine if truancy citations are issued. It was noted that in comparison to the top 10 largest districts, the SDW does have the best attendance rates among those top 10. Mr. Lenner also shared work that the Waukesha County Truancy Task Force has completed in 2024. The task force examined procedures, practices, policies, barriers, and interventions surrounding attendance and truancy. They collaborated to develop resources, propose strategies, and strengthen communication between schools, parents, and the county. The second discussion item was surrounding the Wisconsin Interscholastic Athletic Association approval of name, image, and likeness language. The member schools of the WIAA voted 293 to 108 to approve the proposed NIL language, making Wisconsin now one of more than 40 states that permit student athletes to enter into NIL opportunities. NIL officially goes into effect the last week in May, when the WIA releases its next bulletin. It is estimated that only 1% of student athletes will participate in any form of NIL activities. The district athletic directors will meet to prepare information for student athletes and their families per the WIA guidance for ADs. Just like all other code of conduct or WIAA regulations, you inform and educate, and it is ultimately the responsibility of each student athlete and their family to know and abide by the rules. Each year, they are required to sign an acknowledgement of this responsibility. This completes the Student Services Committee report, and the committee will meet again on Tuesday, June 3rd at 6 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Harlan. Mrs. Kozlowski has a question.
So on the NIL, my understanding is that regardless if the WIAA moves forward, which it sounds like they may be, that individual school districts can craft their own policy to not partake in this, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, thank you, Mr. Harlan. Finally, Human Resources, anything additional, Mr. Zenobia?
Thank you. The Human Resources and Compensation Committee met this evening. We had no action items for approval during the board meeting, and we had no discussion and information items. We will meet again on June 11th at 6 p.m., and that concludes my very brief report.
So I went in the right order, but it wasn't finally. Finally, Policy and Government Relations Committee, Mr. Wad.
Thank you, Dr. Piasek. Good evening. The Policy and Government Relations Committee met on Monday, May 12th, 2025. Action items, there were two policies from the Policy and Government Relations Committee on the consent agenda this evening. Those were Policy 0155 on committees and Policy 8305 on information security, and they were approved with the consent agenda. Policy 0155 committees was revised to align with Policy 0166.1 consent agenda to state that policy revisions approved at least 24 hours prior to the board meeting will be placed on the consent agenda of the next regular board meeting. Which means that if they were approved less than 24 hours, which may happen, say in HR, they can't go to the consent agenda. They would need to be on the full board agenda, outside consent. Policy 8305, information security, was revised to provide cross-references to related policies and includes additional language regarding limitations on the public discussion of cybersecurity measures. For our discussion items and information items, there was one policy discussion and information item on the agenda. It was a technical correction to policy 5136.01, which deals with technology resources and other electronic equipment. Complete policy cross-references were added where applicable. In addition, there were two government relation discussion items. First was the 2025 to 2027 state budget update. On that note, the Joint Finance Committee began executive sessions on the 2025-2027 state budget on Thursday, May 8th. Special education funding and reimbursement was one of the top themes at each of the four Joint Finance Committee public hearings. Any questions on that one? Okay. Next was Senator Bradley's Forward 28 Award to Hadfield Elementary students, and you all may recall them being here. Two fourth-grade students from Hadfield Elementary School are being honored for their Kindness Crew initiative earlier this year. Mackenzie Scott and Brooklyn Patz were named as first recipients of State Senator Julian Bradley's Forward 28 Award, which recognizes efforts of everyday heroes making a difference locally. The Kindness Crew is a school initiative aimed at spreading kindness, fostering leadership, and encouraging peers to engage in acts of goodwill. Their efforts have helped create a more positive school environment, inspiring both classmates and educators alike. We are proud of the positive initiatives happening in Hatfield. That was certainly a fun portion of our meeting on Monday. And then recommendation for future meetings, Mrs. White recommended that the administration report on how the district interacts with agencies such as the Waukesha County Business Alliance and the City of Waukesha. This concludes my report. The next Policy and Government Relations Committee meeting is scheduled for June 9th, 2025 here in the boardroom.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wad. Moving on to other business. Are there any recommendations for future board or committee action or discussion items? Okay, seeing none. We do have the need to adjourn to executive session this evening. We will need item C addressed. Mrs. Kozlowski, no, Mr. Harlan looks like he wants to read the motion.
I move to adjourn to executive session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.85, parent 1, parent E, for deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business, whether competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Wad. Thank you. All right, Mrs. Ettinger, would you take the roll call, please?
Natalie Gren,
Here.
Anthony Zenobia,
Aye.
Thomas Harland,
Aye.
David Wad.
Aye.
Carrie Kozlowski,
Aye.
Eric Brooks.
Aye.
Diane Voigt.
Aye.
Betty Koenig.
Aye.
Kelly Piasek.
Aye, and just to clarify, Mrs. Gren, you were in support of the motion? Thank you.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Passes 9-0, so we will adjourn to closed session. Our next meeting is here in the boardroom on the last day of school, Wednesday, June 11th at 6:30 PM. Will we be returning tonight? We will not be returning. Okay, thank you.